All right. Hey, welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Pegasus Actual podcast for this evening. And this is, as I said on my tweet, the biggest episode that we've done so far of the Pegasus Actual podcast because we have our first famous guest. Yes, I'm so over the moon, happy about it. Our esteemed friend, wonderful Canadian actress Simone Bailly. You guys know her from Stargate SG1 as Kal-El. You guys can see her in BSG, especially when we get to the episode Daybreak, which is down the road for us. But she was in Daybreak as well, and she's had a great career. She's done video games and some of the Need for Speed games, and just my gosh, she has an awesome resume. So, before we get into everything, we'll go around the panel, introduce everybody. I will kind of start hodgepodge, and we'll introduce Simone first. So, take it away, Simone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Drew. And thank you to everyone in the chat and everyone viewing at home. This is very exciting. And I love Battlestar Galactica. Like, genuinely, as a fan and as an actor, love this show. So I'm really, really happy to be here.
You're going to fit in just fine then.
So yes, you will. Yes, you will.
Virtual high five.
Yeah. So really quickly, Simone, what do you think was your favorite part of just getting the opportunity to be on this show particularly?
I think it's just always a wonderful thing to revisit a show that you loved. And there's always that moment when you watch either a show or a movie to see if it really holds up still. And I will say that this show does stand the test of time. And it is just a beautiful show. And I am very happy to talk about it. Because it's fantastic. Yeah. And I will say this show was the gateway television-wise for me getting into sci-fi. Because I was quite a bit younger at the time. But I think this was the show that changed a lot of viewers' minds on the genre, in my opinion.
It really was. It was groundbreaking.
It set the bar.
Yeah, it did. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. We like to say on the channel a lot of times that when we're doing these reviews, this was at the time. This was Game of Thrones before there was a Game of Thrones. This was the best thing on television back then. So, all righty. Well, I am so glad that you're with us. This is going to be a blast. And, of course, I want to introduce author Stephen Walton. He's here with us every week. You guys know him. He's got multiple books, author of The Phantom Menace Volume 1. And I'm sure that there's future volumes coming because he's working on them. So make sure that you check that out. And also, we've got Script Doctor PhD, one of my bestest friends in the whole wide world. And you know what? He's like family to me. He always will be like family to me. So it's great to have you, SD. And of course, we had Orville Nation, PJ.
Is he in the back?
He hasn't popped back in yet, but okay. I'm assuming it's just because PJ is in Spain, so his internet's a little up and downish. So he'll be back, I'm sure, when he can. So,
what you got a thing against Spanish internet? Come on, Joe. I thought you were better than that.
Oh, man, it's one of them things, man. Oh, there he is. Speaking of, right on cue, PJ's back. How about that? PJ, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hey, thanks for the invitation, guys. And it's an honor. Sorry, I had a little technical problem. Sorry.
Yes, you guys know PJ as Orville Nation, and make sure that you love him up, sub to his channel. And also, Simone is doing her thing on YouTube. She had a fabulous interview with Sharon Taylor last week, and make sure to go back, check out her channel, subscribe. She just hit the 400 mark, which I'm absolutely proud of her for just like kicking so much butt. I mean, she's done awesome since she started on YouTube, and it's just going to get better from here. So make sure you check out her content. She's got really compelling interviews every week. And, you know, that Sharon Taylor interview is a thing of beauty because that's her best friend, and you could tell they are best friends.
People even say we look like sisters.
You guys really do. I mean, oh God, you're like, that was just so much fun watching that. So make sure you guys check out Simone's channel, check out Orville Nation, check out Script Doctor's channel because he has one, and also make sure that you know, you can always see me and Steven like bouncing around streams. We're a bunch of stream hoppers here.
Yeah, we are. We're stream bums. We're vagrants.
We are. We're street vagrants, dude. That's exactly. All right. So, chat, what we're going to do now is we are going to switch to Avatar. We're going to kind of cut the lag where we can. And what we're going to do is start breaking down the episode. I've got a couple little BSG news nuggets for you, and then we'll get going. So,
right, real quick, I want to say hail to the chat. I want to say hail to Palanuki. What's going on, Palanuki? Good to see you, brother. Hail to CJH. What is up? Stream Elements is here. How you doing? Parrot Head. Hail, brother. Michael Wolf. Good to see you again. Random Brad. I haven't seen you in a minute, man. Although I think we did catch up in somebody else's chat not too long ago.
Laura.
OG Star Wars stop through. Hail, OG. Love the work that you're doing. So proud of you, sister. Keep plugging that channel. You're doing great. Hail to everybody. And all right, let's do it.
All right, so here we go, Avatar mode. All right, so the first thing I wanted to let everybody know, and I know that we've had a lot of questions about it, is everybody's like, what's going to happen with the new Battlestar? What's going on with the new Battlestar? You guys haven't had any Battlestar news in a while. Well, yesterday, while we were doing the Mounting Into Comics stream, and I happened to be scrolling through my Twitter while we were live, which was hilarious. But, you know, I was just scrolling through Twitter, and Sam Esmail had tweeted something. And I replied to him, and I said, well, hey, what's the news on the new BSG? You know, the fandom wants to know. And he replied with, we are working on it. So that kind of, it was cryptic, but that leads me to believe that it's still on, and they're going to do just what they can when, of course, all this lockdown business is done and they can get back into production mode. So at least he indicated that it's still on. So that's good news. So we'll see where that goes from there. And then besides that, what I have for you guys is it was funny. On Wednesday, there was a Q&A on Katie Sackhoff's YouTube channel where she had a Q&A with whatever fans happened to be in the chat. And I happened to make it in there. She answered a couple of my questions, which was awesome. You know, she relayed a really cool anecdote, though, that I wanted to kind of share, because she said that you know, when she was first starting out on BSG, especially the first miniseries, first couple episodes, she was kind of finding her way. But she thought that she had a little bit of acting behind her by then, thought that she kind of knew some stuff and whatnot. And then she talked to Edward James Olmos, who pulled her aside and said, you know, hey, look, take this a little more serious, you might be going some places. And then, you know, if you notice, you can see the stark progression from the first couple episodes, right? Mm-hmm. And then she really starts to hit her stride in that fourth episode, Act of Contrition, which if you guys go back in the previous videos and you watch our review of that episode, you can really see her take off and find herself, especially in that moment where she has that exchange with the Dama in his quarters. And that was about the time that they had that conversation, and you can just tell how that impacted her. So I found that really cool. So
I mean, that also goes to what we have been saying before about how we feel like the veteran actors on this show help to lift up, the younger actors, help to support them, to lend their experience and their wisdom and their ability to them. So I like to hear that. That's a good story.
Yeah, I found that to be an awesome story. And Simone, you're obviously in your career, you've worked on shows where there have been like some veterans, and I'm sure when you were starting into business, you probably got some parts where there were some veteran actors and actresses on board. So what exactly, when you get into when you're starting out and you get onto a project and you have veterans there, how valuable is that?
There's a great quote that says, "We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us." And I firmly believe that. And I definitely am so indebted to all of the gracious, seasoned actors, the veterans, as you said, that I've gotten to work with. Christopher Judge on Stargate SG-1, he was very instrumental in teaching me just very simple technical things. Because as an actor, I had come from theater and I had worked with Shakespeare companies. And, that's a very different form versus, acting on television. And working technically on camera is very, very different. It's like you think the thought and then you can see it. And there's also just various like technical things. But every person I've worked with, I have learned so much from. And that inspires me to be very equally gracious when it's my turn to be with someone who's maybe popping into an episode for just a day part or something like that, to make them feel comfortable and to really, take people under your wing and make them be the best, give the best performance they can. I think that's just invaluable.
Oh, I love Simone now. That was a beautiful quote.
Oh, thank
you. That was. I mean, wow. And this is just another example, guys, of why Simone Bailly rocks.
Thanks, guys.
That's all I got to say. So let's get into the episode. So this is very interesting. I love, that we start just in the middle of chaos. This episode's called Scattered, and I mean, it's just so metaphorical. There's the literal part of it where you see, in the episode what happens when the fleet gets separated, but just the metaphor is spot on for this. What was your take, Stephen?
And again, we have excellent writing, forethought put into this episode. Everything ties together, especially toward the end, which we'll get into later, how each of the events that are going on are tied into the theme, not only of the overall episode, but of what's going on, interwoven with each other. This episode was a great beginning to the second season from where we left off after Adama was shot. There's not so much in the way of character development, just expanding upon what we have already learned of these characters, but every character that has time, every actor that has time on this show really shined. I mean, there's everything was great.
Yeah. Simone, what was your first impression?
Well, you have to understand, firstly, I haven't actually watched new Battlestar Galactica, the newer version, for many, many years. So, here I am popping into first episode of season 2 into Scattered. And I was just flooded with all these great memories. How beautiful the tone is, the music. Bear McCreary does a fantastic job with this haunting and mysterious music. And I think I forgot that we already know about so many Cylons at this point. Just even seeing that one shot, there's a kaleidoscope shot of Boomer seeing herself in all of these, as multiple Cylons.
Yeah.
And that was just such a striking image. And seeing Baltar and Six seeing their, quote unquote future baby, and just being reminded that was the relationship I loved so much in Battlestar Galactica. And thankfully, when it was my shot to act on the show in season 4, I got to work with both James Callis and Tricia Helfer, but just that whole hypnotic and titillating relationship that they have, how she just has him, wrapped around her little finger, and it's just so delicious, that whole thing. And then, gosh, I mean, Ronald D. Moore, just knocks it out of the park with this show in general. This show, as he said, and even in interviews, it talks about, or the themes are liberty versus security, those kinds of things, and that distrust. And we start to see that in this episode when Boomer has gone to Kobol to retrieve the arrow.
The Caprica.
Or Caprica, rather. Cylon. Yeah, that's right. Cylon occupied Caprica. And then Boomer is saying, okay, well, Six is down and she's going to be downloading and they're going to know, all the Cylons are going to know where we are right now. We got to get out of here. And Starbuck does not believe her for a second. And she says right in front of Hilo, oh yeah, right, she's pregnant with your kid. And it's just that whole dynamic. And, and it's wild for me because, I do personally know all of these actors. So there's a lot of things, for me to watch it. I'm like, oh, there's my friend. But, it is pretty wild seeing, and it's great casting too, of casting Grace as Boomer, because she has just that innocence and the fact that she's, a visible minority. And so there's so many kind of things at play here. Do we trust this Cylon? And then of course, Boomer makes her argument. I mean, not Boomer, Starbuck rather, about, I don't think we can trust her. And then sure enough, Boomer takes off with her ship.
It's interesting in those comments.
So it's just like, wow.
It's interesting in those comments because Script Doctor has actually said that Gaius Baltar is delicious in previous episodes.
Oh,
go ahead.
I will admit I put that term on a timeout because I used to overuse it, but I have to say in this particular relationship, their relationship is pretty delicious.
Oh, go ahead, SD.
Are you making fun of me?
No.
Oh.
Actually, I think I know the acting coach where he probably picked up delicious from up in Canada. So, So, Drew, could you elaborate a little bit more on the metaphor that you brought up earlier for the solos in the chat that may not have seen the episode and want to understand a bit more clearly what we're talking about?
So the metaphor with the episode with Scattered is the, it's not just the actual literal part of it where the fleet is separated. It's the chaos. It's, Colonel Ty being stuck in a leadership position for the first time where he's really in the shit, where he has to figure out, oh my gosh, I got to make the big calls, because normally it's been in the flow where he's just, he's had his shift in the CIC. He's been in charge and things, he knows how to handle that because it's status quo. This is way out of the realm of status quo. This is complete chaos, and he by default is now the man, and he has to make all decisions and all eyes are on him, and he is basically, for lack of a better term, shit in his drawers at this point, because he's like, what the hell do I do? And I don't have my best friend to lean on because I can't lean over and ask him, what would you do in this situation? So there's the chaos of that. And then there's the chaos of what's going on, as Simone alluded to, on Cylon occupied Caprica. So we have that. We have all kinds of interwoven chaos in the entire episode, and everyone is scattered about. And that's, I think, the metaphor that fits the episode title so well.
Actually, that's a bit more literal. It's not really a metaphor to anything else, but it is literal. I mean, you do hit the best part on there, which is that Ty is afraid of responsibility, although he likes the power that he has and the position that he holds. And the flashbacks that he has before he's reintegrated into the fleet shows the type of man he actually is, which is one that just doesn't give a shit. And I think that once he's finally put into a position of responsibility, he's trying to, live up to his best friend's ideals and how his best friend would work on the command. But he knows that it's something that he's actually, regardless of his training and his experience, it's not something he's ever really done on his own. And you can see that a huge flaw, not just in who he is as a person, but also a flaw in Bill Adama for having him as the XO, because he's not a person that's actually capable of doing what he wants to do. So that gives us a lot of drama, because we know that he is not going to always make the right decision, because he has so much doubt and inexperience of this position that's going to actually be detrimental as opposed to helpful.
Yeah, and can we just take a moment to appreciate how good in these first 3 or 4 episodes Michael Hogan brought it so strong.
Yes.
I mean, this guy, I mean, he absolutely nailed it, and props to him. Such a good actor. Such a good actor.
Drew, if I may, because we're only going to have Simone for a little bit. If Simone, I just want to ask her a question about the 2 actors playing Baltar and Six. What was their dynamic like when you were working with them? What was their dynamic like between them, like on camera and off camera? Like, can you share anything about that experience?
Well, it's funny because, spoiler alert, I did get to work with them, but I played, in essence, Baltar's Lady of the Evening. So in that particular episode or scenes that I worked with them, he was actually more focused on me than her, because that, I think, supported the script that was happening there. But both of them as people are just extraordinary, and both of them as actors are extraordinary. That goes without saying. James Callis, I find just very, very classy, extremely professional, as was her. I worked more with him, though, because she, in the scenes, was kind of more in the background. But yeah, I just remember pinching myself at how fortunate, of all the people I could work with on Battlestar Galactica, it was those 2, which were my absolute favorite. I was just over the moon. I've said this many times on other interviews. I literally cried when I got the news from my agent that I got the role, because I had previously gone out on auditions for that show as, I think, Baltar's lawyer or the opposition, I can't remember, and didn't get it, and so finally I booked, the 2-part finale, and it just, was a dream come true.
I believe that. Yeah, one of my favorite characters, because of the story, was Gaius Baltar, and I loved watching the dynamic between Callis and Helfer throughout the whole series. I mean, Helfer was pretty much the face of the show, and that was one of the most interesting character arcs to me throughout the series. So I loved their chemistry, and I loved how they played off one another. So that's nice to hear something from someone who had actually been there. Thank you.
And I honestly think that had that been a true movie, and if movies actually gave sci-fi more Oscars, I think that James Callis would have deserved an Oscar for his portrayal of Gaius Baltar. It was just so deep and emotional, and just so engaging to watch.
Beautiful.
Agree. Yeah.
I mean, the characters on the show had such a great complexity. Like I was saying, Simone, just taking this episode, for instance, what did you think of Michael Hogan's performance?
Well, it's funny to me because I listen to him and I'm actually not sure where he's from, but I always think, wow, he sounds so Canadian that I'm surprised. I'm always surprised when someone sounds so openly Canadian. Is he Canadian? I'm assuming he is. Because I wasn't familiar with him before this show. But yeah, he does a great job. Everyone just nails it.
Yes, Michael Hogan is a Canadian actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, script actor's Canadian as well. He's in Canada.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and this show was fantastic for really launching so many, especially Canadian people's careers.
Yeah, I know. Gosh, there was because Trish is from Canada.
Trisha, Grace Park, Aaron Douglas, Tom O'Pennicott, Nikki Klein, Luciana Caro, Candice McClure.
Leah Cairns is from Canada.
Yep, Ty Olson. He's there. Alex Ponovic. He's always been doing a ton of stuff. But yeah, there's, so many. It's fantastic.
I got to say hail to the chat after she mentioned my future ex-wife, Candice McClure. Hail, Angelus Draven. Good to see you, brother. Lady Mistress here. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Dolified's here. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming very much. And Parrot Head is also with us. And I Am Boxy is in the chat, Drew.
Yeah, I know. We found Boxy. We have Boxy theories every stinking week. Like, where's Boxy? And now Boxy comes and invades us. I don't know, man. We might have to disappear Boxy.
Well, I Am Boxy says Boxy's personal log. I was on a short vacation when I came back to the damn fleet, and they left me behind. So now I've been hopping transports with anyone I could find. Still haven't caught up.
All right, that's all right, Boxy. We're gonna airlock you yet.
Can I mention one thing about this episode?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Which is. Okay, to me, didn't you guys notice this? Didn't it seem like he got shot in the stomach? But yet they switched it, and I believe they probably did it for production reasons because they wanted to keep the frame of the shot to be chest up, so they changed it to, he got shot in the chest.
Yeah. Because if you notice, there's that really emotional part, that emotional reference with Apollo at one point in the show. I don't know if it's this episode or one of the ones coming down the road, but I remember the piece of dialogue where Apollo says specifically, that thing put 2 bullets in my father's chest. I think that's later in the season.
That was in this episode. He tells it to the president. Shot once in the stomach and once in like the midsection just below the nipple.
Okay.
Oh, script doctor, he knows.
Yeah. So Simone, I have a question for you.
Script doctor.
I have a question for you, Simone.
Yes.
Did you audition before Carol Kritzer or Corinne Mayers when you auditioned for Battlestar?
Corinne Mayers. I really have to credit a lot because she was the casting director, the gatekeeper basically to a lot of my career. And big shout out to both Corinne Mayers and Heike Brandstatter for absolutely supporting me for many, many years now. And I'm indebted to them.
So she saw you first that day, huh?
Well, I've told this story that actually I loved seeing, even on this episode, that it was directed by Michael Reimer. He was the director for the finale, the 2-part finale, Daybreak 1 and 2, that I was in season 4. And when I went in for the audition, it was a director session. And Michael Reimer was sitting there, and my character had to eat a match, which means put out a match in my mouth. And I had taught myself how to do it by a YouTube video, and I practiced like crazy the night before. And I actually taught myself how to do it. I learned all my lines, and went in and made it look like it was effortless. But I had been, struggling to learn it the night before. And he was so amazed that I could put a match out in my mouth. He just was like, "How did you do that?" And I said, "Well, I watched a YouTube video and I practiced and, I did it." And he was really, really impressed. But so that whole experience meant a lot because it was just a success all around. One, that I didn't burn my face off, but also that I got the role of a lifetime. So
there's a notorious pattern that Corinne Mayer, she casts the first woman or actor she sees on the day that she starts casting a show. So if you ever find out she's a casting director, try and be the first one in there, and you'll most likely get the part.
Oh wow!
Oh, what?
Yeah, that's her habit. Yep. So,
Script Doctor has the inside track, Simone.
Oh yeah, I mean, you still have to bring your A game, of course, but I don't know an actor that ever goes into an audition that doesn't. So, I mean,
why do you work with her or for her? Or?
I've worked on a few projects that she has been the casting director for, and some of the people she's cast, I think, are the worst actors in the industry and shouldn't even be on in the show. But that's not my choice, so I have to do what I can to make sure that they sound and can say the words that are on the page, because in many cases they can't. They're just pretty faces.
But it's not actually always up to her, because it has
it's
to be
not always up to her, but there
it has
has
to be
been a
approved
pretty strong
by network
pattern.
or studio. Oh, interesting.
Because she's been around for like over 30 years, so she's got some pretty good pull. You know that as well as I do. But a lot of her opinions are quite trusted. But one of the things that she's known for, especially more recently, because there's been enough of a pattern to prove it, is that if you're the first one going in for the role that day for that show, she's most likely going to pick you if you bring your A game. And if you're like the second person right after there and you're better, she's going to forget you and not even register you unless the director's involved or a big important producer's in there that argues against that opinion. But yeah, so tips, just knowing in there, you find out she's the casting director, tell your agent, make sure I'm the first one there that day.
It's funny because I was often the first, and I would be the first or the last. And I never knew what that meant. I was always trying to decode,
Oh yeah, it's a weird industry we're in. Eh?
Oh wow, man! See, we're just the fans over here, man, and you guys are just talking the industry stuff, and we're sitting here like, wow.
I appreciate hearing all that information.
I know.
Yes, we do.
Just like, dang, man.
Real quick. Stream Elements came through. Hail, Stream Elements. Chef Zilla's here. Speaker for the Dead is here. Hail, good to see you. Did I miss anybody? I don't. DJ Odyssey. DJ Odyssey. Yeah, we're gonna be. He's already starting boxy theories. Thank you, DJ. We love you, DJ.
Simone, did you know it was the series finale when you were auditioning?
Yes, I did, which meant so much more to me because I was like, this is it, girl. This is your last chance to nail this part. You've got to do it. And I remember I was driving at the time. My agent called me and I had to pull over and cry. I was so elated to hear the news that I was finally cast in one of my favorite shows.
I bet. That's amazing. It's like a fan being on set, for you. It must have been like.
Yeah, and if we all recall, Battlestar Galactica at that time was one of the hottest shows.
Yeah, I mean, scoring a role on this, it had to be, from an actor's point of view. I mean, that was what you wanted because, my goodness, this was the hottest thing going.
Well, this was the only thing I had as a fan. I mean, I'm traditionally a Star Trek fan. There was no Star Trek, and Battlestar was so different than anything else that had come before it. It really did set a bar for science fiction television, and I mean, I can't say enough good things about it, as the audience knows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because also typically a lot of sci-fi that we had seen in the past has a lot of humor and levity, where this show doesn't always do that. This is a little darker tone, a little more sexual. It gets really into the weaving of characters and all of that. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Well, the last show that I think I had enjoyed as much as that would have been Deep Space Nine, because they had a plan in that show all the way through, and you could tell that Ronald Moore had a plan.
Well, this is like. Because we brought it up before, Stephen. Was like, I think, a natural progression almost, because you had that multi-layered, multifaceted writing. You had a lot of the writing team from Deep Space Nine come over to this show. You had, obviously Gary Hutzel, the special effects guy, that came over to this show that was handling that. You had people like Bradley Thompson and David Weddle that were writing episodes, wrote a lot of BSG, and like Simone said, you had people like Michael Reimer directing and whatnot. So you had quite a few people that some that were involved with DS9 and some that weren't, but a lot of them were, and of course, Ron Moore himself, he had that pedigree already. And, we pay attention to when we get to the end of this season, a lot of the storyline coming up for season 3 is stuff that they directly used in this show that they didn't get to use in Deep Space Nine. And we'll get into that more when we get obviously to that season. But yeah, I mean, I find that fascinating.
And please, everyone in the chat, please sub to Simone Bailey's channel. She's doing some excellent interviews, upcoming interviews, and I think we'll all be interested in. Please give her a sub, support her channel, and thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually,
Simone,
Simone, can you just tell us real quick while we still have you, what kind of content you're going to be having on your channel?
Yeah, so I am a Stargate SG-1 actor. So I do, and I've done actually a lot of sci-fi. I was on Smallville and Outer Limits, and geez, what else have I done? lots of things. But so I'm going to definitely touch on a lot of the actors that I have worked with and admire, but also writers, producers, directors, showrunners, and also musicians and DJs, scientists, aliens, list goes on and on. But, I also was, a lot of people don't necessarily know this, but I am a certified yoga instructor. And I taught professional athletes and famous people in all walks of life how to do yoga. So
Wow.
I would like to touch on health and wellness, and just life hacks and tips, things like that. It just things that are funny and just be silly. And I'm really excited because I just started my channel and it is growing. And I thank everyone for their support and everyone here in the chat today and listening. It really means a lot to me. And my next stream, my live stream, is this Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to have actor Dean McKenzie come on, and he was a Need for Speed actor alum, and he's also been in tons of sci-fi as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and he had a huge recurring on Arrow. So definitely tune into that. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I post all the updates. But yeah, thanks. I'm really excited. And I'm so happy to be embraced by you, Drew, and PJ as well at Orville Nation. You guys are the best.
I mean, from minute one that I met you, Simone, I absolutely thought you were a kick-ass person. So I was like, yep, I'm definitely going to help this lady with everything that's in me because, you're just like totally awesome, man.
Thank you.
My father loves SG-1, loves it. So I think you might actually get my father into YouTube. He will not. He does not like YouTube. You got it. Check Simone Bailey, dude. Come on.
If Simone gets your dad into YouTube,
yeah, then you've done it. You've done something I could not achieve in my own family.
It's so simple, though. He just has to push a button.
That's right.
Oh man, so we got some folks trickling in the chat. I noticed Lady Mist. She's one of our regulars that comes in here all the time. She said, "Nice to meet you, Simone Bailey." And Lady Mist is a sweetheart. She's in here every episode of the Pegasus Actual podcast that we do. She comes in and she's one of the most faithful fans that we have and supporters. So
nice to meet you, Lady Mist.
Got Ensign Ricky in there too. I've streamed with him. Good to see you, Ricky.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by, brother.
Of course, Ensign Ricky, good guy. Kronos, he pops in. He's big around the community. He said, "I love Stargate." Yes, you do, Kronos. I know that.
I love Kronos' Avatar. Can we talk about the black hole for a minute?
Oh, yes.
Awesome Avatar.
That movie is underrated. In
Mhm.
DJ Odyssey, of course, he says Boxy theory. Boxy is again writing Drew's cue cards. He adds in extra letters. That's why Drew sometimes seems to be at a loss for words. You guys always got to mess with me. It's all good. It's all good. But no, we've got a lot of people that have come out. 21 viewers we're up to right now. So I want to thank everybody that's out in the chat and checking us out. So glad to have you here. So glad to have Simone here because, she just radiates awesomeness, and she has a natural energy that brings people around. So here we are.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way. How about you?
So as Steven mentioned really quick, the black hole. Did you see that movie, Simone?
The Black Hole.
The old Disney film, early 80s.
I have heard of it. Yeah, I think that's more my older brother type.
That was a movie that was like one of those cash-ins that tried to recreate Star Wars.
Yeah. It was great. It had Anthony Hopkins from Psycho in it. It had Robert Forster, Ernest Borgnine. My goodness, what a cast it had. Oh God, who was it that played? Reinhardt. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Maximilian Schell.
Yeah, he was also in Flash Gordon. I can't think of his name right now.
Yes. So, it's as far as science fiction goes, Simone, it's kind of legendary. So if you have Disney Plus and you're sitting back with popcorn one night, pop it on.
Yeah.
Simone,
any reason to have popcorn?
There you go.
Well, I just want to take advantage of the fact that we have Simone here. Simone, when you were filming, was that a 1-day shoot? Was it 2 days? What was that? Well, can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
I can't remember. I felt like it was a couple days. I just remember we were filming in this stunning mansion in Vancouver, Canada, and it just had this beautiful ocean view. You're up on a cliff and you're looking down, and it's just such a modern house. And they had done something really interesting, and you don't necessarily see it on screen, but they had all of these vases, and they put little black goldfish in each of the vases, and they just peppered them around the set. And
wow.
Yeah, and it was just so beautifully stylized. I felt like I was in a magazine.
What was the goldfish about? Is it just like for effect, or?
It was just a very subtle design thing in the house we were in. I just remember thinking, I thought they were so beautiful, but at the same time, I kind of felt sorry for them too, because I wasn't sure if they would live through the shoot, especially with
they
the
wouldn't
light.
remember anyways.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah.
And Simone, did you know the backstory of the final episode, or just your part?
No, I think a lot of those big shows like that, they don't give you necessarily the entire full script. They just sometimes give you, especially for the finale, the series finale, not just the season finale. It was the series finale. And I think I recall them, they didn't even want the actors to blab anything, because the show, was so hot at the time. And it was such a hyped up event that it, for the end of the whole series, they were very protective, as they should be, about that kind of information. And I think actually that they even had a fake script circulating just in case there was a leak.
Oh yeah! Wow, nice. Wow, Simone, chat's already given you homework. Corona says The Black Hole is not a bad movie. I'll expect a review of The Black Hole from you in a few weeks.
I don't know where I could see it.
Disney Plus.
Oh, Disney Plus. Okay.
Or find a friend's address.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're into piracy.
We don't speak of the high seas in here.
Yeah, Speaker of the Dead said, I love SG1. I watched it so much, I'm almost embarrassed. It's so great. It never took itself too seriously.
Yes, and I think that's what the fans love.
That was Richard Dean Anderson's doing too.
Yeah.
That was the stipulation. You'd only do it if there was some levity in the scripts.
Right.
That's
Nice.
great.
And it worked. It worked real well. Smart
Really,
man.
really well.
MacGyver's always a smart man.
And Simone, do you maybe want to share who was responsible for writing you into Stargate? Do you want to share?
Yeah, so I was really fortunate. One of the lead actors, Christopher Judge, created Kal-El, my character, and he wrote the very first 2 episodes that I was in Stargate SG-1, both the episode Birthright and the episode Sacrifices. So, yeah. So that's been really great. And Chris always said to me, I love when you play because I also get a little bit of kick, like monetarily. Every time you play, I get a little bit of money. So,
Oh yeah, you get the character fee. That's the best part.
Yeah. So I first appeared in season 7, episode 10, and then my second episode was season 8, episode 9, and then I did basically 3 seasons recurring on and off. So it was really fantastic.
So that's like what happens. So when somebody makes a recurrent character, so the person that creates it, they get a nice little pop every time that recurrent character makes an appearance.
Yeah.
Has to be a speaking role though. Can't just be done off screen. So the actor has to also be involved.
Oh, nice.
But what if it's a mute character?
As long as they're as long as they're physically there, you still get the paycheck. The actor has to be used and they have to be referred to. But if they're not on screen, they don't say anything. Then you can actually like write a show about Batman and never have Batman appear and be perfectly fine and not have to pay any rights or anything like that. That's how it works. But if you put Batman on screen and then you have to pay something, and then if you also have him say something, you then have to pay something again also. So it's usually best to that's how it usually works under WGA West and East rules and WGC rules as well.
Not that you need to answer this, but I just always wonder to myself, like, how much do they really get? Like, is it the equivalent of my residual checks, or is it more or less? Like, I have no idea.
It's usually negotiated by the agent and manager. I mean, there's a standard rate fee that you have to check the WGA for how many points you have for your union. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the stipulation, like, is it type A, type B, type C? How many, is it like a eighth of a page, quarter of a page, that type of stuff? How much is it used in the final edit, if at all? If it's not even used in the released cut, then you don't get anything. So yeah, There's a lot of factors that go in, and it never happens. You never get paid beforehand. You always get paid about 6 months after.
So there must be teams of people that just pour over scripts constantly, clocking all of that.
No, there's not. Most writers usually find out after the fact. Like, for instance, Michelle Snodgrass had no idea that a character she wrote for season 2 of Star Trek: Next Generation was going to be used in Picard.
Oh, right, yeah.
And because it didn't tell her, but now that she knows about it, she just has to go to her agent or manager and be like, "Hey, make sure I get my payout." And then they do they make the request, and then the production company, in this case Secret Hideout, will issue the check.
Oh, so you have to do a little bit of chasing.
A little, of course, you know that.
No, well, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure your agent and manager definitely know this. Like, if you ever come across something that you did but you didn't realize you weren't, it was like actually in the show. Like, maybe a scene was cut, but then they re-put it back in, and then it played on television. Then when you saw them, like, oh hey, yeah, I didn't realize I was actually in this episode. Then you'd have to check with your agent manager and find out if it's a new addition from footage that was originally on the cutting room floor, and then see if you can get some cheese out of that.
I love it. Steven, I just noticed that you changed your avatar to me with Jolene Blalock.
Yes, I was about to my selfish question of the night was going to be about Jolene.
Yeah.
Jolene. Yeah, oh man, I remember.
Big geek.
Yeah, I looked at her when I first worked with her, and I was just like, wow, she's just gorgeous. She's like the blonde Angelina Jolie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How did you like working with her? What is she like?
She was fantastic. I'm the kind of actor that I kind of endow the the status that I'm supposed to have as the character with the status I have with the actor sometimes.
Mhm.
And so I definitely put her in high regard as if I was, subservient to her and on her team, basically. But we had a great time. I thought she was really warm and just lovely to work with.
Beautiful.
And she's just beautiful. She's gorgeous. And they styled her so well.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did. Man, the thing that I still can't get over is how good that she just did to Paul in Enterprise. I mean, it was just amazing.
I will always recognize Jolene from Star Enterprise. And
Well, I
that
think
she's
Simone
been
Bailey is long overdue to play a Vulcan in a Star Trek show. So
get on that
Oh, there you
CBS.
go.
But I'm scared because I was saying on the last interview, we were talking about Vulcans, and I met an actor who had to play a Vulcan, and he said it was the most challenging thing of his life because there is a right and a wrong. You can't just wing Vulcan language,
Well,
And
it's not just if you ever get the shot, just DM me. I'll tell you the tricks.
oh wow!
Oh, slide into Script Doctor's DM, Simone. You heard it here tonight, guys.
Well, I mean, I intern at Paramount, so I know a lot of the secrets with regards to how Star Trek is supposed to be done and how it's not. So, I'm happy to share those secrets in confidence with actors that if they reach out.
Yes, Ensign Ricky, T'Pol is the hottest lady in Star Trek. Thank you.
I don't know. Nichelle Nichols is still lights a candle for me.
Oh no, I'm not saying anything. Oh, Nichelle Nichols, absolutely beautiful woman. Lots of beautiful ladies have been on that show. I just happen to like. I like Enterprise. Enterprise is always like the stepchild, and so I've always taken a certain shine to that series because I love Scott Bakula. I love that cast. I think that poor show was cut off before it was allowed to give its full vision. Should have been given a full 7 years, So I always treat that show a little different. I love those actors. I love that cast. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was me. So anyway, thank you to everybody in the chat for showing up. We appreciate you. Please check out Simone Bailey's YouTube channel. Support creators, and we thank you very much for being here. Drew apparently hit mute, or he doesn't know he's on mute, so I'm going to take over.
You guys, I have to run, but I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show, and thank you to everyone in the chat and everyone who's already subscribed to my channel. I've got my next show coming up this Saturday. Please tune in. I love you all, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Simone, for just taking the time out and being on with us. And it was amazing. And you actually stayed over the time that you originally thought you were going to have. So thank you for that. And my last burning question to you before you go
What's that?
Okay, now, if they get this new Battlestar going and they have a call, are you going to try to get on the new Battlestar?
Hell yeah!
All right.
That's what we wanted to hear. Simone, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate the insight.
Yeah.
And I thank you very much.
Yeah, Simone, please come back sometime again. This was awesome.
Well, any reason to revisit one of my favorite shows. I mean, it's a pleasure, and thank you very much for having me, Drew.
Oh yeah, any time, and you're always welcome, and you're awesome company. How can I not enjoy being around you?
Thank you.
Thank you, Simone.
All right, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of your show. I'm out. Love you all. All right.
Peace. Give a hand for Simone, chat. Yay!
Woo! All right. See ya.
See you later. That was nice.
Yeah, that was awesome, guys.
What a treat.
Yeah, really. To have an actor who had been on the show and to get those kinds of insights, that's a wonderful thing. Thank you very much to Simone for coming and giving us that insight.
But it's also
Yeah.
valuable to see her as a more relatable person than a celebrity that's always out of arm's reach. I mean, that's the thing that makes the fandoms far more invigorating when you can
Well, what
actually see them a bit more vulnerable, but also see them who they are as opposed to the characters they just play.
Oh, absolutely. And what she had said in the very beginning about standing on the shoulders of greatness, you know, when working with older actors and respecting what had come before her, that really puts her on a very high respect level for me, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. It's it's awesome to get that perspective too from somebody on in front of the camera, because script actors got it locked down. We got the man like behind the scenes, like in the behind the camera area. But man, when you get like somebody that's in front of the camera too, and you get that perspective, man, it's so valuable. And Simone's good people. She's good people. I've been getting to know her. Very nice person. And and she's just got a great personality. She's like as down to earth as they come. So hey, look, chat. The more we're gonna try to reach out. We're gonna try to get more guests like that on this show for you guys as well, because it's awesome for you to get that perspective too. As much of a treat as it is for us, it's more a treat, I know, for y'all that's out in the chat. So we're gonna continue to endeavor to get guests on and have these kind of opportunities, for you to meet the person that makes the character tick. So yeah, we're gonna definitely try to do that in the future. And hopefully now that we're out there, we're networking, we're getting some relationships going, that'll happen with a little more frequency. So I'm very, very happy that we got the opportunity to have this for you guys tonight. But now we're going to get back into the nitty gritty of the episode, because we got into interesting anecdotes and asking questions and everything else. So let's kind of get back into it and actually like go into analysis mode now. And who do we want to start off with? Script Doctor, why don't you start us off?
Well, real quick before Script goes into that, I'd like to give a shout out to Raquel, Bear, Nerd Fun, and Brian the Gravedigger. We miss y'all. Sorry you couldn't be here tonight. Our love. And I just wanted to give them a shout real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Bear's got some family stuff going on, so I know he's kind of just chilling, kind of lurking maybe. He definitely had some things going on, and Raquel had some family stuff going on this evening as well. And Brian is still doing his thing because he moved recently and he's getting squared away, I think, in Texas. So
good for him.
Yep. So things right now are he's just getting things sort of where they need to be for him to get a routine down. So yeah, we're down a few folks tonight, but let me just say, it's awesome having PJ in here, because it's the first time that we've had the opportunity to have PJ on with us and do this show. I've been wanting to get PJ.
It's an honor
for Thank a while. So it's nice to have PJ involved this evening.
Well, let me just say that this episode was amazing to see a space battle without the cut and paste that we've been seeing lately. I just want to say that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think again the hat goes off to Gary Hutzel, the effects person for Battlestar Galactica, because if you notice, all the space battles in the show were done really well. And and that's primarily due to the way that he set those up. And if you guys remember Deep Space Nine, Gary Hutzel was responsible for stuff like all the Dominion War stuff and everything, all the memorable space battles from that. So, I mean, my goodness, you couldn't ask for better for this show. And that's a big part of what I think made it so awesome, with the action and the space battles that we got out of it. So, all right. So let's go into back into analysis mode here. Script Doctor, why don't you sort of lead us in?
Okay, so right here, we pick up where we left off, obviously, but this time after Sharon has been taken away to the brig, Adama is being examined by the field medics, trying to be stabilized, and then moved to the operating room in order to be worked on, because he's still holding on to life by the skin of his teeth. The doc is on the Rising Star, so they're trying to get him over. But there is a base star that is on approach with a whole squadron of raiders coming after them, so they got to jump away. And while I really like the aspect of this, we're starting to see a flaw in their plot contrivances here, because they jump and then they're all alone, and the rest of the fleet has gone somewhere else. And we learned that basically the Battlestar Galactica didn't update the rest of the fleet with the stellar drift aspect of their coordinates, and so the fleet went somewhere else, and they got to work their way back. And I thought this was kind of an unnecessarily needed conflict. It didn't need to happen, but I mean, I liked how it went. It just felt a little pull out of our ass, just so we have one more extra thing to do, as opposed to something a bit more organic. Also, they kind of screwed up a little bit on the definition of their rules compared to the miniseries and the season 1 about how they network machines and how they can be subjected to Cylon hacks. Fact of the matter is that a network, especially in Battlestar Galactica, the first season and the miniseries, was very specific that it's a mainframe computer, which means it has no outside connections, and none of the computers are network connect together, so that in case of a physical connection is made, they couldn't be hacked by any Cylon force.
Right.
Which is what gave them the advantage, because they couldn't be remotely hacked. Yet, they kind of forgot about that in this episode, which is actually kind of a big no-no. Like, Ronald D. Moore must have been sick one of those days to not point that out, because I don't think they repeat that later. I think they stay pretty much on point for that for the rest of the series, if memory serves. But I mean, I like the conflict. I'm actually kind of surprised that they needed to go about, networking their computers for computer power for processing fast and light calculations, when they could stay where they are. And because they have the records of what the stellar drift was prior to the update, they could still, from that point on, figure out where the new jump coordinates were and then just adjust the course for that, because that's how the Navy works, especially if they screw up with their star charts back in the day before they had satellite GPS. If they went off course through the stars, they knew how to track them where they are, because they know constellations, and that's still a thing in space. So I don't know why they went that way. So it's a very stupid subplot, but it did bring about a lot of good conflict and some tension, especially with the fact that Colonel Tai has to decide how they're going to do this, and also how they're going to be able to signal those that are outside of the fleet of their new coordinates, given the situation. So it's like one problem at a time for him. But aside from that part, the rest of the episode is still quite solid. Still keeps up with the flow and pace and the conflict running that was in the season 1 finale. I especially liked some of the flashbacks, although I do think they should have got younger actors to play those roles, as opposed to trying to age down Edward James Olmos and Colonel Tai. It was not very successful, but I did like the fact that these are two guys who were either discharged from the fleet, or they went through something where they're no longer part of the actual military fleet anymore. And Adama's wife or father-in-law helped him get back in the service, and so he just passed that along paid it forward with his friend Colonel Tai, who is informed of his return after spending the night with a woman that I don't think was his wife and being drunk off his ass. So I thought that was kind of fun as well. So yeah, I mean, other than that, it's a good episode with some like, well, the means that they get to the conflict is, I think, silly and a big misstep. The conflict itself and how the characters respond to it and the goals that are laid before them are very clear and understandable, and it really builds the tension. And I really like how it goes full focus. And I think the medic did a great job trying to act opposite an unconscious Edward James Olmos to bring about the tension and her lack of skill and how she feels about the situation. I thought those scenes were quite interesting to watch. To go a bit more off of what Simone said with Kara and Hilo and Boomer on Caprica, I thought that scene was a little, let's say, it didn't go as much as it should have. There was a lot of standing and talking, like similar to what a CW show do. However, their dialogue and their conflict was far more real and less preachy. But it was more like one should be more in a hurry to get the hell out of there, as opposed to stopping to shoot or what have you. There needed to be a bit more movement, a bit more goal orientation, as opposed to just dwelling on a single subject matter. Especially considering the fact that Kara is on a ticking clock. And she knows she has to get back, and now she has this new conflict, which is, oh, can I take Hilo with me, or do I have to leave him here? Like, that wasn't addressed, and that should have been addressed like right off the bat. They missed an opportunity there, in my opinion. And yeah.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too.
I see a lot of praise for Script Doctor in the chat. Thank you, Hail chat. Yeah, script breakdowns are wonderful. I love his analysis of anything he's speaking about. And remember to subscribe to Script Doctor. This guy's going to be a big YouTuber one day, y'all.
I don't think so, but I appreciate the support. I really do. Thank you.
PJ, what's some of your thoughts?
I have a little different take than Script Doctor on that subplot, because I guess I have a different perspective. So coming from somebody who studies human behavior for a living, I thought that it was interesting that the human error factor was really put on the table. As sometimes people don't realize how much human error plays a part in real life and military and aviation and so many things. And for me, I was watching this, and the one thing that came into my mind was that scene in Apollo 13 where the flight director says, "Somebody tell me this isn't a government operation," where Ed Harris is saying that. And unfortunately, the reality is that there is a lot of human error. So I'm glad from my perspective that I understand what Script Doctor is saying, how you were breaking it down. I'm glad that they delved into that. And at the same time, the young man, I forget his name, who committed the error, goes ahead and fixes it, right? Which I thought was an interesting part of the story. I jumped into this episode not having seen the other episodes, and I haven't seen them in a while. But I love Baltar and Six. Their dynamic is just the two actors are just amazing. Mm-hmm. And Katie Sackhoff does a great job with how she's playing the role. And Boomer in both situations, the actress playing Boomer is
Grace Park. Yeah,
Grace Park. Yeah, thank you. And so I don't know. I just thought it was I felt because I haven't gotten, I listen to you guys, but I don't watch the episodes. And because I want to do a binge watch at some point, and it felt really refreshing. It's really refreshing just to listen to Script Doctor and Steven and Drew when you guys are talking about this, and it was really refreshing to go ahead and watch an episode I hadn't watched in a long time.
Oh, we gotta shout some people out in the chat real quick. I am Boxy real quick has a Boxy log. He said Boxy log. Boxy, you screwed up there because we don't use star dates in BSG, but the adults have taken Sharon to the lockup. Nice for me. They don't know I'm hiding in the vents and have the perfect view of a gorgeous woman. And if we had a nice little sound effect for that, we would cue it right now. Our boy Shellback's in the chat, and props to Shellback. Shellback, thank you for supporting me, coming in here and hanging out. I appreciate you, buddy. It's always good to see you, Shellback. He said Grace Park's pick with Steven's voice is messing with you a little. Oh man. And our boy Apollo Patriot. Of course, Apollo Patriot has to pop in with something always crazy. Luke Felix are hot. Yeah, nice Apollo Patriot.
Speaker of the Dead says my eyes tell me yes, but my ears say no.
Oh,
See,
man.
you've all been fooled. That's actually Steven's butt that in that photo. That's not.
That's
Grace
right.
Park.
I wax.
He just waxed it. Yeah.
Ouch.
Oh man, I could not unhear that or unsee that. Thank you for that, guys. Jesus. Oh my God. So
You want to move forward with the outline, Drew?
yeah, so basically, something that I think we should address is, the Down to Raptor crew, and where Gaius is kind of having that dream. And they see the kid, and it's hilarious because because Callie kind of wakes him up right when he said, "Am I the father?" And Callie's like, "Excuse me." It's so good, dude. I thought that was great. So,
yeah. I mean, it's always fun playing with Baltar. Watching him because he's always just discombobulated with all the visions that he has, and he always seems out of place. He's always dealing with some kind of an illusion. And in this specific scene, Callie waking him up in that field, that was the perfect way to begin him in the real world outside of the opera house in this season. Just again confused and what but yeah. Going back real quick, I just want to touch back real quick was about the when they were going over the end of season 1, the very last events of the last episode in season 1, and Saul goes into these flashbacks once he gets into command, and he references his friend, his friend Bill, who, like Scripted said, they were out of the service and then he was brought in, and so his knowledge of command, where he stands, comes from the advice of his commander, of his best friend. And he hears Bill Adama in his head and says, go with what you know. And so that's what happened, when they spin up the FTL and they jump, which creates all that confusion. Get a little bit of shot of my future ex-wife Candace, which I was happy. Candace got a little bit of screen time in this one. I'm a little happy. Not enough, but I'm happy with it. And then we went into Apollo going into the jail with Rosalind, where Apollo fills her in on what's going on before the fleet jumps, and the Reapers the Galactica jumps, and then we get to the Baltar scene in the opera house with Angel 6, which then leads into Callie waking him up. But now I just wanted to make mention a lot of the callbacks, a lot of the flashbacks that Saul has in this episode really shows how internal how he feels that he is not prepared for that kind of a command role. He is the supporting officer. He is very comfortable in being the XO, in executing the commands of the commander, and just griping at the crew and keeping the crew in line and laying down the law. But when it comes to command, we see again, and with two different characters, also with Crashdown. But Crashdown is completely inept. How unprepared certain characters are for command, even though they are in a higher tier of the command structure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It plays off more to the fact that the Galactica was being turned into a museum ship instead of one that was actually active fleet.
Yeah.
So you can tell, usually, from my limited experience in the Navy, not actually in the Navy, but knowing naval officers, when a ship is retired for museum purposes, it's usually officers that are either very green, just learning the basics of the operations, that go on there for a very short time, usually 6 to 8 weeks, before they're transferred off to an active ship or another location, and also retiring officers that just are familiar with it, know the history of the ship, and do stuff there for part of the actual museum stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if those aspects were taken into account when they were crafting this show. As, like, yes, these are going to be a mix of very experienced officers, but also very new and young officers that don't have a whole lot of experience and are subject to make mistakes, as what happened earlier with this episode. Now, I don't have any issues with the mistake made. I just found it a little bit kind of convenient to be in this particular position, given all the other conflict they had that was very ripe to explore at the same time.
Right.
I think Shellback's BSG lady is Callie. Look at that.
We'll get into Callie later. I don't want to. There's a bit of a sordid past with Nikki Klein. We'll get into that later, later's in next season. Because I actually love Nikki Klein, as crazy as she turned out to be.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Callie's one of there's not one actor that I can point at in this show and say I didn't like that person. I didn't like what they were doing. I mean, I can judge certain decisions that were made during the characters' progressions or what the decisions they made. But I mean, as far as the quality of acting and what they brought to the table of the show, I don't really have a single gripe about any one of them. So yeah, Callie, definitely another one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's funny because they it's like the only thing we can point out is for script actor, it's Baltar.
Oh. If we ever get Callus to come on this show,
I'd love
you got to be here
because he sold that role. I mean, he did a great job. I mean, you can't get me to have a conflict with an actor for a character they play because if I hate them, they did their job, and if I don't hate them when they're supposed to be hated, then I'll have a conflict.
Right?
Like, who directed you? What did they say? How did you fail at this? Like, come on, man. But yeah.
I'd love to discuss Baltar with him here. Like a good Baltar episode. I would love to hear what.
I'd also like to know if he pulled anything from Dune for that, because Gaius is a name that's used in the Dune series prior, wasn't introduced in Battlestar. So I wonder if he had any insights or pulled anything from Frank Herbert's series to dictate some of his character.
Yeah.
Did he help write his character?
No, but like an actor usually finds their own backstory to a role, and that they use that to help motivate for their actions and the deliveries.
I understand.
So yeah, like I wonder if maybe if Ronald D. Moore said, "Hey, yeah, I'm pulling this name Gaius as your first name to help bone up your character. Maybe read these books from Frank Herbert just to sort of understand that type of thing, get you into a mindset." Some creatives do that. Sometimes I'll write something. If I'm writing something science fiction, I want to pull from another thing, I'll do it in there, and I'll try and give it some sort of new take and new meaning on it, so that if it does get to the point of casting, I and the director involved can take that actor side and be like, this is the reason why we have this action here, so please experiment with this during the cold reads that we do, and then we'll figure out how we want it, how you can best show it out on the screen or what have you. But that's usually what you kind of do. And I like the fact that while watching Battlestar, you can pick up on some of the other science fiction and other mythological aspects. A lot of them Raquel has basically on the tip of her tongue at all times.
Yes.
Me, I have to think a little harder to get in there because I don't have that as a sole focus in my background.
Yeah, Shellback says, I have a thing for all the BSG women. There you go, Shellback. Same here, buddy. I 100%, 1000% agree with you. Speaker for the Dead says, I am relatively new to your group, but I follow many of you individually. I think you all are very good. Thanks for doing what you all do. Speaker of the Dead, thank you so much.
Oh, he's been around a lot. I've seen him on a whole bunch of other channels.
Hey, Speaker.
Yeah, and I do want to say, again, chat, hail to you guys, because without you, there is no Pegasus Actual podcast. I mean, everybody that's here, your support means the world to not only me but to everybody else. And you guys are always so gracious every Thursday when we do this show. you guys are in here like clockwork, and we do from the bottom of our hearts appreciate it. So thank you so much. I mean,
Drew really does care about this show. He called me twice to say, Steven, Simone's coming on tonight. Please keep your pants on. Twice. He said, Steven, keep your pants on. Please. And I just realized I'm still in like second gear, being very dry. No, okay, PJ, I'm sorry. Pants are coming off. They're coming off, bro. I want to talk about some Battlestar.
But the thing is, I'm glad that we have this with the fans, and again, thank you guys. If you haven't subbed to the channel yet, please click that subscribe button and sub to me, because the more that this channel can grow, the more that we can bring the show to an even bigger audience, and get those bigger guests that we want to get on here. So again, we appreciate your support. Thank you so much. And to some of the other people in the chat from earlier, Ted Book Zhu, and we had Peggy Oaks in here. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate everybody that's come by this evening. So, all right, let's continue. As
all right.
Steven said.
All right. Well, let's see. Angel 6 and Baltar at the Opera House. We went to Cali, and then we go to the Raptor crash site on Cobalt. Crashdown plans on moving the team and the wounded to the tree line. And this is after, at the end of last season, we had seen Crashdown very nervous, very uncomfortable in his leadership role in chief. Tyrrell had to kind of, buck the system, buck him a little bit, confront his ego, and try and steer him in a better direction. And we see that a chief is actually more of a sound leader than Crashdown is. And so Crashdown took that advice in the previous season, and now he's going to move everyone to the tree line instead of going to a mountaintop where originally he wanted to go to try and signal down any ships, but that would also, if any hostiles were in the area, would be able to spot them easier too. So in the midst of them moving or preparing to move the wounded to the tree line, Chief wants to check around for all the supplies, make sure they can grab everything they can before they go, wait at the tree line to see if Galactica sends any ships to the crash site, to see if anybody's still alive. And in his experience of rushing them, they don't search the area for any supplies that they might need, and they just get out of Dodge. Does anybody have any comment on that scene?
No, it seemed pretty standard. I really enjoyed Sam Witwer, though. I enjoyed Sam Witwer as Crashdown. He was he was really good. He brought something to it. I actually wish that Sam Witwer could have stuck around for a while, but
he got on Smallville.
Yeah. As we can see, like as we move forward in the episodes, though, like Crashdown does a bit of a 180, like he's trying to be a leader now, but as you'll see moving forward, there's some definite changes. So we'll find that out in the next couple episodes, but Angela Straven says has a comment. He said, the conversation is interesting, and you guys crack me up, even though he's not technically like a huge BSG fan, but he enjoys coming in here and checking out the show.
Hell, brother, thank you.
And Shellback is like, wait, what? There's a dress code here? It's like, are you trying to tell me I got to get clothes on? Nice. DJ Odyssey has a Boxy theory. Boxy is a love child of Stephen Welton and Callie. Unfortunately, the DNA test came back, and it was discovered Script Doctor turned out to be the real father, and Welton was just Luke's father. And
can I ask a question, guys?
Sure.
Of Script Doctor and when Steven, well, all of you guys, because you guys have been reviewing already. You've already reviewed one season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so I have a question. Out of all the people who we know are Cylons that haven't been revealed yet, when we're going back and watching it, when you guys are going back and watching it, are you seeing any sign whatsoever, any Easter eggs about any indication that they were Cylons before they were revealed?
I know one of the characters specifically is actually being quite good at not being revealed as a Cylon.
Mhm.
I don't want to spoil it for the chat, but I'll write in the private chat.
Yeah, I am honestly trying to look at this series with as fresh eyes as I can, even though I've rewatched it several times. And if I had to get, I mean, from the initial watch, definitely one of them. There's definitely one character that it doesn't get revealed until much later that I was always suspect of.
What about Boomer? When you guys were watching the end of last season, was there anything in there, Script Doctor or Steven?
No, they kind of tipped the hand on that very, very early on in the series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they with the B storyline, the B plot on Cylon Occupied Caprica.
Okay.
Yeah, and you
I didn't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, and he pretty much like kind of as far as like Boomer proper and not like Caprica, like not like Athena and Caprica. Like you got to see, you started to see the clear deviation between, the two Sharons early as well. So you kind of knew at that point, like, okay, one is good, obviously one is not. In that sense, because see, here's the beauty of the show. Again, there's they lay out kind of the good and evil parallel, but at the same time, in the end, the characters are a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray. I mean, this really gets down to the best and worst of people.
Yeah.
And that is what it is. It explores not only humanity, but you get to see the Cylons and I guess their sort of personality and their humanity. Essentially.
Yeah, well, a running theme for this entire series is the question of, is humanity really worth saving if this is how we act?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think that's a very powerful theme that's in every episode, because it's all about the intimate behaviors we have, the intimate wants that each character is trying to achieve, whether it be for themselves or for the whole. It's what makes it really engaging, and the fact that there's not really a break given for these characters on their journey really pushes them to the limit, and it's something that I know a lot of producers really don't like, because they think, oh, the audience needs to take a breath with the cast and crew and the characters, and a lot of us writers like, no, you don't understand, like, the draw of that tension that builds as you keep on going. Sure, you can have a respite at some point, but if you're on a really good roll, you want to hold that roll and end on a very solid footing by that time. You don't want to stagger it out with like a filler episode.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking on that point itself, we're just real quick leading into the next scene with Ellen talking about the bad behaviors, even if we're worth saving, with Ellen and Saul. Saul's in there getting changed, and he's Ellen's talking with him, and you can see her manipulating him, because if Bill dies, he's the commander, and she begins to plant these little eggs in him about whose fault was it, and then they have discussion about Gata didn't make sure the rest of the fleet had the updated calculations, the star fix before we made the jump, and so that's why we jumped into the wrong area. And she tries to, it's not your fault, it's his fault. Kate Vernon, that was her name, right? Yeah, Kate Vernon does such a good job, again, just like James Callis with Gaius Baltar, of making you not like this character and showing you some of the worst characteristics in human that a human can show. And it just in this one scene that she's in, again, just like the one episode she was in the last season, you see this terrible trait, the continuation of this terrible trait in this character, about trying to manipulate her husband into pursuing power, so that she can attach herself to that power and raise her own status, her own social worth. Yeah,
I mean, it's all self-motivated, and I also love the fact that this episode is very tie centric, and it shows you how much in jeopardy that the whole fleet is, because this is not a character that is a leader. Even though like the entire reason we have XOs in the military system is to prepare them for command. And here's a guy that's completely unprepared for it, and he's a very important position. I mean, even the new captain that they brought in for this episode, I forget his name, showed more leadership skills and more strategy and more calm, collected manner than Ty, and Ty did rely on him.
Mm-hmm.
But
Captain
it's just something you don't ever see in a show, and it's something that really shows the dire stakes that are at hand if Adama doesn't pull through.
Right.
Oh, are you talking about Captain Kelly?
Every time I look at Captain Kelly,
I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the drunk guy from he did a part in another movie that he was really bad. He was like the high school bully, the high school jock. And every time I see that actor, that is the part that I think of. So it's just he was so it's hard for me to take in little. It's again just because I remember an actor from another movie. It's hard to look at him differently. But yeah, in that role, I'd have to agree with Script Doctor. Yes, he was doing what an XO should do since he was in that position, and he was giving him options, and he was saying, look, this is the state. Do you really want to do this, or should we do this? So, I mean, yeah, Captain Kelly was pretty good in this episode for the small parts that he had.
Yeah, very good introduction for this character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, but also in the scene between Ellen and Saul, he makes mention that the fleet, that the Battlestar would need to jump back to their original coordinates, and that it would take 12 hours for them to complete the calculations needed in order to find the rest of the fleet.
Yeah, again, that goes back to my earlier thing, which, I mean, it's a good stake to have, but it's really not
unneeded.
It's not fitting into the rules that were established by the show already. But yeah.
Right. And then just after that, Apollo is speaking with Rosalind and comes to the realization that he had taken a stand on Colonial One basically for no reason, because she gave herself up and he's in the brig, and now he's not involved in the command decisions or on the crew. And so, he comes to the realization himself that he did that for nothing. He turned his gun on Saul for no reason. He committed mutiny for no reason whatsoever. Even if he had not taken that action, everything would have happened, with the exception of him being in the brig while his father is in the med bay, dying. He would actually be able to be there for his dad. So some choices do lead to dead ends, or some choice. The consequences of certain decisions, are very poignant in this series, and this is one of them. You want me to move forward?
Yes, please.
Okay. Crashdown and the team makes it through the forest. Gaia sees some more hallucinations of the baby cradle. This is going to be a theme that I can tell for the rest of the season. The wounded crewman needs Saracen, which is something to help his lungs. I don't think they necessarily say what it is, but
I think it evaporates the fluid that's inside his lungs so he can breathe.
Okay. Which was left behind due to Crashdown's hurried pace. So Crashdown orders a crewman behind to go and get the Saracen. But again, Chief comes to him and says, hey, maybe that's not the best idea. And there's this conflict between Crashdown and Chief, because Crashdown is in command, and he is very nervous about this situation, about being in command and having to make these decisions. And Chief is trying to be the calming voice. He's kind of learned over the last few hours in Showtime that, how to approach him, because he doesn't want to hurt his ego, and he wants to make sure that everyone is safe. So he approaches him calmly, says, to try not to confront his ego, and has Crashdown order him and Callie to go back to the crash site to get the Saracen, to bring it back for the wounded crewman. And again, Chief is a natural leader. We really see this in the last couple of episodes. I mean, we already know this because he is the chief of the deck. He knows how to handle a crew. He knows how to delegate responsibility. He knows how to prioritize. But in this emergency situation, he really does shine as a character, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the chief is really the leader in the field. And we see that pretty much immediately.
Well, yeah, Chief has got more experience leading a crew than Crashdown has. Like, he's just a soldier among many with a certain rank, but you never see him ahead of a team before. So this may be the very first time he is. But Chief, he's got to organize several members of his own team and prioritize what they do and keep their safety in mind and think a couple steps ahead when it comes to repairs, especially in tense situations when they're under fire. So he's got a lot more experience to draw from than Crashdown. And the conflict between the two is that the chief thinks he should be in command of this mission, and he's definitely correct in that. But he's also kind of being conflictive to Crashdown, who is also in the lead, but is also unprepared. And instead of him trying to both work each other out, they're both kind of doing a dick measuring contest at the same time. And it's basically led to the tragic end of one of their cohorts in their effort to save another.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Back on Caprica, Silent Upgrade Caprica, Kara is deciding whether or not she's going to have to choke a bitch. She's there with Hilo and who was going to be Athena, the Sharon on Caprica, and basically does not trust, hates Sharon. She absolutely hates her. That's not Sharon. That's a copy. And Sharon's trying to say, I am not a copy. I am the person who knew you when we first met. You got sick on oysters. And Kara doesn't want to have it. She does not want to have any kind of feeling to this robot, this machine that killed her world. She completely views her differently. And she also feels betrayed because she's known Boomer and been around Boomer for the last several weeks, I guess, at this point. On the Battlestar. Now she realizes that there is a traitor on Galactica. So she has a bunch of different emotions running through her, especially after going through that, retrieving the arrow, going through the fight with Caprica 6. She threatens her with a gun, points it in her face, and Hilo stands in the way. She's like, "Get out of my way!" And then she says a line that if it was written today, people would be like, "Oh God, this is SJW nonsense," but it's not. Because this show is not SJW nonsense. It's a great show. And Kara says, men are so painfully stupid sometimes. And you actually rarely get lines like that in this show. That I guess could be construed sexist or whatnot. But it's actually a strong line. And it was funny given the context of the situation. Because when you look at the two different perspectives, Hilo at this point is protecting Sharon. And because Sharon's carrying his child, and he has been running with her and has already confronted the fact that she is a Cylon. And Kara Thrace, she just came home. She just saw her entire world, her entire life destroyed, and she had to be reminded of that, and then find out that there's a traitor amongst her ranks. So she is dealing with a lot of emotions at this time. And so while she's fighting with him, Sharon steals the raider that Kara got there in.
Yeah, she just dips in the Raider.
Yeah, she just dipped right out
because they're sitting there arguing about the virtues of if Hilo can get through to her or not, and she just says, "F this, I'm dipping out."
Yep. And then Saul visits Adama in the med bay. And we find out that Adama has a torn spleen, needs surgery immediately. We get a couple more flashbacks of the two drinking. Saul has bloody knuckles while they're drinking, so you're starting to get the idea of the kind of friendship these guys have. I mean, you kind of figure in his younger years, although, like Script said earlier, these are younger versions of the characters, but they don't look that much younger. They look like
the wig is terrible.
Yeah, so you have to suspend disbelief on it.
The mustache is kind of reminiscent of Blade Runner when Edward James almost was in there, but it just it didn't sell it. But I like the fact that they were working on a freighter. I mean, that's an interesting story, right? So
absolutely. But with the bloody knuckles, you get the idea that these are rowdy, shipmates, and so. That's a nice, it's a nice addition, visually, to be able to infer the characteristics of these characters from. Saul gets informs her that she's going to have to operate. The medic in charge, I can't think of the medic's name at the moment, I apologize. And she's never, she's a medic. She's never done any kind of surgery before. So after informing her that she's going to have to operate because Doc Coddle is with the fleet and the fleet is missing, Saul then visits Sharon in the brig. She asks him, how's the commander? And Saul hits her right where she shot herself in the face, and begins to interrogate her. This is and Sharon's whole attitude at this point is just get it over with. You fracking coward, is what she calls. She says to him.
Oh, and she nails it right onto him because he totally is.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the characters, the younger characters stand up to Saul from time to time. Apollo.
Boomer, I mean, she just puts it right on him. She's like, do it, you fracking coward. And it's like, damn.
But she sees right through Ty. Like, she knows.
You're dealing with a character, Boomer. She has been dealing with an internal conflict, split personality, dealing with these realizations that she is doing things, trying to deny them at the same time, trying to kill herself, at the same time in her heart wanting to be the hero. I mean, Boomer's actually, in my opinion, all the way through this, a tragic character, because I don't feel as though she is an evil character. She is a character that is put in an impossible situation.
Well, she's slave to those that created her.
Right. So, I mean, I feel bad for her. Even after she shoots the old man, it's hard for her to even reconcile that happened, but there is a level of acceptance of what she is, which I think is the reason why she just says, just shoot me, just get it over with, just kill me, because she doesn't even trust herself. But it was a pretty poignant scene. I mean, in my opinion, I think that she's a tragic character.
I think too, one observation I wanted to make real quick was, this is why I think Boomer is an isolated case among her model of Cylon, because I think that they specifically altered her programming to give her like the sleeper protocols, and it was just her. Because it seems like in general the Sharons, and we'll see this later down the road, are more wired like Athena than Boomer.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would agree with that. She's definitely an isolated case. And you see that later on when we're able to cover it, when we see the Boomer character return in various scenes. Conflicted and very almost heartbroken at what she had been through. There's a level of acceptance that the character eventually gains, but she still feels a measure of loyalty toward the Galactica crew. It is, that's why I look at her, you're right, as an isolated case, and a tragic character, in my opinion. I end up feeling bad for her, even though she does some heinous things.
It's my so you guys are not forgive me for this question because I'm new to the group, but you guys are not speaking then in the context of so you're speaking as if people haven't seen you. We don't want to spoil anything, correct?
We're trying very hard to. It's hard at times, but we're training ourselves slowly. I think we got through we got through season 1 and was able to figure out our rhythm. But yeah, we're trying to stay episode by episode because there are some people that have come through in the audience who have never seen the show and are catching up with us, are watching the series now, which is really what, in the end, what we want to do is to get more people interested in this series, because unlike current science fiction, this is a wonderfully written series with no real agenda other than telling a good story. And so this is what this is the best of sci-fi, in my opinion, space opera. So we want people to be exposed to that. If we can bring more popularity to shows that are written for the reasons of creativity other than pushing some type of social agenda, then we might get more of that out of entertainment if there's a larger cry for better entertainment.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it. But I'm
Yeah, I mean that's actually what they do have an agenda in here, but they play it so subtly that it's not actually a hand-fisted way. Their agenda is basically a challenge of faith. I mean, like that's the big conflict is you've got the gods of Kobol versus the god of the Cylons supposedly, and what Angel 6 is doing is just using sex, her beauty, and her femininity to convince an otherwise atheist to believe in something that he wasn't convinced of to begin with.
And she's also angelic in the way that she scares the shit out of him sometimes. She could
There's
be scary.
that too.
Yeah.
So like she's using all these manipulative tactics to gain something for herself as opposed to actually help Gaius overall. Gaius is just a slimy type of character to begin with anyways, and it's very fun to watch him being tortured in this manner and also trying to placate Angel 6 for what she's doing to him because he knows now at this point that he's completely helpless when it comes to her, and I think that's a lot of fun. And it also shows it has a subtle highlight with regards to the dangers of indoctrination that's done through personal means as opposed to altruistic means.
Well said, script. Very well said. It also plays back to earlier in the very early in the episode when Gaius is speaking with her in the opera house, and she asks if he wants to hold the baby, and he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do? He
shakes his head no, and he goes, yes.
right. He's completely out of his element. You're right, because he's an atheist being thrust into this kind of religious scenario. He's now a member of this Providence, and he doesn't know how to react to it. He is like just not someone that would expect to be in that type of position. You would expect like a priest or someone who's religious to be chosen by God to lead humanity into the future or be God's vessel, and he is not that type of person. He's a scientific, rational atheist. Gods don't exist. That's just a myth. And now he's in this crazy situation. To him, what would be a crazy situation of faith.
Yeah, it's got a level of manipulation similar to the tale of Samson and Delilah, except like Gaius is hardly a Samson, unless you want to say intellectually speaking.
He's dreamy, remember.
And the way that you cut off his hair, so to speak, would just be to essentially cut off
his penis,
grab him by the balls. Really.
His penis.
Yeah.
But
and
Cara did that.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the cool parallel that we've got here is that it's just the fall of what a should be hero. I mean, even though Gaius is not, but he was perceived as that on Caprica at the time. He was a popular programmer that developed as the network and everything. But yeah, like he's a hero that's being manipulated and taken advantage of by a woman who uses her femininity to manipulate him for her own gain and for the detriment of the people that he serves. Because when Samson lost his strength and everything, he couldn't help those that he was responsible for, if I remember the legend correctly.
Yes. Yep, he brought down.
And then they poked out his eyes and then chained him up, and then when his hair grew back, he kicked some ass.
Yeah, well, he killed himself. Yeah, he tore down.
He killed himself kicking some ass. Yeah.
All right.
With regards to an overall story arc, I think that without giving anything away, I think it's particularly interesting to me. Some of the individuals who have their leadership tested in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Very poignant. The point, going back to Crashdown, the chief, and go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, Ty as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Back on Kobol, Chief and the team return to the crash site and find the med pack that they left behind. And upon their return, they come under fire as they're going back. And one of the crew members is shot. And Callie, let me put Callie's picture up here, because Callie is a mouse. Callie's this mousy little, cutesy, mechanic that but. That whenever she goes boss. When you try to assault her, she will rip your damn ear off and get shot. F you. And in this scene, she's laying grazing fire against these Cylons, and she's just like a boss. In order for Chief to recover the wounded team member who's been shot up and bring him back to to some cover. Callie again shines. I love Callie. She's just cute little tough chick. When they're able to grab him, they run for cover. Callie lays grazing fire. Sorry, flip the paper. And Chief and Callie get away. Does
it seem to you like they get away a little too easily there?
It seems to me like there was a time constraint. I would have liked for that to have been a little longer, the scene to have been longer. I would have liked to have seen Callie maybe take out one or two of the toasters, but that's I guess that would be my complaint with that. It was a little too fast, but due to time constraints.
That's it. It's too fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really tried to do a lot of Saving Private Ryan wartime cinematography.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Well, like Script was saying earlier, the unnecessary plot with the FTL coordinates. They could have taken something like that out to give more time to other things. But
yep.
I think they hit it on the mark so much in season 1. They probably had a lot of pressure on them in season 2 to pick up and run with it. And so I think that's where a couple of the mistakes were made. Just because imagine first off, Sci-Fi at the time really didn't have any other big show. Well, they had Farscape. Was there
Stargate was running at the same time as this, I believe. Farscape, Enterprise, Voyager had just ended, I think, and Enterprise started when the show started.
Really? I thought it was 05.
No, Enterprise was in its third season. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think so. That's right. Yeah.
Enterprise was in its third season. Trying to think. It was like, I think it was like Breaking Bad and it's the John Hamm show where he's in the 60s and he's doing the advertising. Mad Men, yes. Mad Men and Sopranos.
Right.
And Dexter, and those shows were actually they weren't in sci-fi, but they were rather big for their time.
Right. Well, I mean, in as far as sci-fi space opera, the first season of Battlestar was under a lot of scrutiny. There was a backlash to that show. There was a lot of infighting within the fandom, a very, very heated infighting within the fandom that Drew knows very much about. You speak to Ichibaka on it because he was on the other side of that. He hates the new Battlestar for his own reasons. And, so there was a lot of testing by fire that was being done in that first season. And I think it shined through. The actors carried that show, the writers, the entire team carried it through. So, when you come out of that kind of heat and you're going into a second season, you want to carry that momentum. So I think a few of the technical mistakes that were made in the beginning of the second season come from the pressure that they were under to perform. And that's my opinion.
It could be the case, yeah. I mean, some shows, especially if they already know that they've got like 3 seasons laid out, they will write their season 1 finale along with their season 2 opener all in one go. Okay. I don't think that was the case actually for Battlestar Galactica. I think because the miniseries is what really got all the controversy. That died down, I think, midway through first season, if memory serves, because it's already been out 2 years by that point, because the miniseries was 2003, season 1 was 2004. A lot of people had enough time to sort of readjust to this new take and see that doesn't actually replace the original Battlestar, but just another show with that brand. Mm-hmm. But I also think that they were a little bit touch and go because, if memory serves, they didn't know they were getting a second season, I think, until like 3 or 4 episodes before they finished writing them for submission for filming, which would have been about, I think by episode 4, the time episode 4 aired is when they would have found that out. So then they probably had to do a little bit of scrambling and seeing if they just wrap up the season and then give themselves some time in between the seasons to do that. Because season 2 is significantly longer than season 3, right? Like it's 20. It's a full season of 20 odd episodes, right? If I'm memory serves.
Yes, yeah, and including I think one of the first, maybe not one of the first, but had a mid-season 2-parter that was great. I can't wait to review those. And I think that was the mid-season break. I believe it was.
Yeah. This was like a staggered season because they had a ton of episodes, and yeah, this was like it was almost like a season 2A and a season 2B.
Yes, yeah, very much so, very much so. Yeah, so back to Cobol. When they get the med kit to the downed crewman who had been shot while Callie was laying fire, and they ran off and they got away too quickly, as Orville Nation pointed out. That was just too hastily in that circumstance. Basically, the person who was shot dies. The crewman dies, and so now they have to get back to Sinus to give him the medicine, and they speed.
So they're not down 2 crewmen. They're just down the 1. Yeah.
They're down the 1. Yeah. And then we get to.
Well, before you go to that, they do one
sure.
thing which I hate in Army films, and that is how they remove the dog tags, where they just like grab the tag and then snap, and then it just automatically unclasps around their neck. That doesn't happen in real life. I know. I've tried it to try and be cool with friends. Like it doesn't break. It doesn't do anything. You end up just hurting the neck or hurting your hand if you're tugging on it too hard. So I always think it's kind of silly the way they do it. Even like one of the friends I was Navy, like, yeah, if you have to remove the dog tags from a guy, you either pull it off their head properly or you unclasp it at the back and take it. You don't snap it off all like that, because it
I agree with Script Doctor on that.
Right. All right. So then we get to my future ex-wife, Candace McClure, with some screen time. Anastasia meets up with Gaeta in the washroom, tells him that it's not his fault, tries to console him. Gaeta is feeling bad because he let the fleet down, and obviously, well-written character. I really like Gaeta from beginning to end. And he gets the idea to jump back by and fix the situation. This is the part I really is the most confusing to me. You have all these separate systems that are not networked within a ship, but if he networks them together, then the time to calculate the new jump coordinates from where they were goes from 12 hours to 10 minutes. So are these systems, are they hindering themselves by separating these systems if there is such a vast improvement in calculating ability?
Yes, I mean they're using computer power for their FTL, so they can jump far quicker than normal. And I mean, I like the idea. It's actually a little bit accurate to computers. If you get a whole bunch of computers working together on the same problem, they're going to process it much faster. The only thing that they kind of screwed up on is how a network actually works
Right.
on a ship. But aside from that, yeah, it was a good solution to that problem. I still think this type of B plot would have probably worked better in a different episode than this one. But yeah, like it was good to have him have the flaw and then come up with a solution. It's a good arc for him, showing that he's able to take responsibility and he's able to do something that Ty can't do, because Ty wouldn't admit a mistake and then try and fix a problem. He would just dwell on it most likely.
Well, when Ty's with Ellen, like he actually does. He says it's my fault. He realizes that anything that happens under his command falls on his shoulder.
Yeah, he does. I forgot about that part. I was too distracted by her talking about the blood on his uniform.
Ellen, like it's hard to pay attention. Well, especially when she's doing the kind of social maneuvering and head games that she does. That's really what you pay attention to.
Yeah,
it's the foot in Apollo's crotch. You're just like, what the hell's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. When Saul has another memory of when Bill informs him that he had gotten back onto military duty using his wife's connection, his father-in-law, I believe, if I'm correct. And Saul allows excuse me. So after this reminiscent memory, he goes to see Apollo and actually returns him to limited active duty because he has a lack of experienced captains around him. He needs everybody he can get. I'm sure he would have turned to Cara Thrace, but she's not there. So Apollo gets to return to limited active duty, and when he's not on active duty, he goes back to the brig. This also allows Apollo to possibly see his father and make sure his father's okay, but to be an active part of the solution. The software firewall that Gata puts together, something that he says he wishes Gaius was there for, because this actually is Gaius's area of expertise. And Saul says to him, "I'd rather have you do it than that guy. Nobody trusts Baltar." And
Yeah.
right. So Galactica returns to the last jump point with the firewall and the network up and put together. Raiders appear on the Dratus and they begin their attack run. And the computers begin. And actually, instead of 10 minutes, it's 7 minutes. It's calculated that they're going to be able to get the revised jump coordinates in order to find the rest of the fleet. It also skips on this part to Billadama in surgery, where his heart stops. And the medic,
They don't have a defibrillator. Yeah,
they don't have a defibrillator. That's right, they don't have a defibrillator, and the medic is going to have to cut him open and massage his heart before beginning surgery in order to get his heart started again. Guys, just stop me if there's something you want to add into it.
No, you're right on point. So.
Cool. All right, the Cylons begin to hack into the network immediately, and a new type of raider appears. Kind of looks like a bomber at first when you first look at it.
I like this sequence because obviously you got some Apollo action and some cat action.
Mm-hmm.
A shout out to Luciana Caro. I love my cat action.
Hell yeah.
But the thing is we get to see the Heavy Raider showcase, and the Heavy Raider is just such a cool ship. I love the Heavy Raiders.
Yeah.
And so the Heavy Raider is like, obviously they don't know what to make of it. It's hard for them to engage and whatnot. And the Heavy Raider starts to make its way to Galactica, and they're pulling in with it. It's pulling the Vipers into past the engagement zone where it's safe for them. So they're going right into Galactica's flak barrier, which is incredibly dangerous, obviously. And you see that the Heavy Raider is hit by some of the AA fire from Galactica and some of the Viper fire, and it's wounded, and then it's starting to spin down, but then it cuts away.
Yeah, and when it cuts away, it's diving straight for Galactica, and Apollo follows it. I think that's a little bit ahead, though.
Yeah, they think it's on a suicide run to do some internal damage, because the nukes aren't doing anything to the ship at this point.
Isn't that amazing? The
armor's holding up incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think this new ship had Cylons on board?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a bomber, but I mean, it also looked like a convoy.
Yeah.
Or sorry, like a transport ship from a convoy. So, I was actually kind of surprised how as soon as it landed and Apollo's like saying, "Oh yeah, there's no fire, nothing's weird," that they're not like sending ground soldiers, if you were, to that zone to secure the area and maybe take out whatever might be in that ship, or at least scavenge what's in that ship for resources.
Right.
I mean, for me in a leadership position, that'd be the first thing I'd think about, given how limited resources are available at this point. Like, really, they're just functioning off of like harvested ice for water, and food is on that like resort that's being grown, and that's pretty much it. Like, it's pretty scarce.
And we already know the FTL drives on those Raiders are better than anything they have in the fleet. What kind of technology can they adapt or integrate into their systems from a captured Raider?
Can they put those FTL drives like on the Vipers? Like that would be one thing to think about, right? So
right. Absolutely. Yeah, so the base star is firing nukes, and Galactica is just taking them like a champ. Then we go back to Roslin in the brig, and a guard asks if he can pray with her. And so she says, of course, and he stands there and begins praying. And as he's praying to the Lords of Kobol, he asks, "Help our prophet Lara," which is interesting because now she is becoming a religious icon to those who have been paying attention.
Yeah. But notice the brilliance of this scene, that you have a character that is assigned to guard a political prisoner, and he doesn't believe she is like he believes in who she is, but he has to maintain a balance of his duty to the hierarchy that he's a part of. I
Mhm.
mean, it's a great thing here. Like, if he believes there's so much to pray for, you'd think, oh, he'd probably like release her and they make a break for it or something, but he doesn't. So that shows a lot of depth in something that's so minor in screen time and application within this show. I think it's a great little thing for not just for the script, but also to give an actor that's usually just always a nameless guard that just stands to the corner and will be eventually fodder to whatever escape plan occurs.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's kind of a microcosm of probably the way that the fleet is looking at the situation, where they understand that they have jobs that they have to execute, they have loyalties that have to be maintained, but at the same time, even someone with who you may think has no faith, maybe an atheist or an agnostic, now thrust into this life and death scenario for how many weeks, is facing some kind of real religious realization, with Laura Roslin and the oh God, what are they called? The scripts of what's the religious text called? Pythia.
The scripture and the prophecies and so
yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful and interesting, in-depth, very short scene, just like script said. To have a security member who is there, holding a political prisoner, and at the same time, his faith recognizes in him that she is a prophet of the Lords of Kobol. So it made this story. I love this whole series. The medic begins surgery as the second firewall is breached, and the Vipers are being swarmed by raiders. Then the third firewall comes down. Apollo wings the land. The what is it called? The raider. What is it called? The bomber. What is it called? The heavy bomber, heavy raider,
heavy
raider.
Transport, heavy bomber, heavy raider.
Yeah. Heavy raider. So yeah, he wings the heavy raider, but it's going within the blast zone, or the.
It's a docking hangar that it's headed for, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's also going within Galactica's fire zone. So Apollo's trying to take this thing down, and he gets warned. He's like, "You're going into Galactica's fire zone," and at the very last second, he has to let up and let it go in order to not get blown up himself from Galactica's fire. The fourth firewall is then breached. The fleet position is plotted. The network is immediately broken, and Saul orders the jump prep. Galactica prepares to jump. They do so. And you see this scene 100 times, probably like 50 times in this show, where you see nukes flying at Galactica, and then it's gone. Activates the FTL, and then the nukes fly right past, and the raiders fly right past. And after that, they reappear with the fleet. The first thing that he does is order Doc Cottle over to Galactica, where the medic has finished surgery, and states, "I'm sticking with pills and enemas."
Yeah, she doesn't want to have to reach inside a person and massage an organ again.
No.
Yeah.
No. That's when Saul is standing over his body at that point and says, "Can you hear me, Bill?" Obviously he can. He's having problems breathing. He's got a tube down his chest has just been open and has been sutured together. And it goes to another flashback scene, which is really telling about this character. It's a good scene. I'm glad that they put in, because Saul Tigh is ready to kill himself. He's got probably a hooker in the bed. His wife's off cheating with, somewhere. That's just their life. And so he's done. He's tired of his life. His wife cheats. He's banging other chicks. He doesn't care. He's drinking all the time, getting into fights, and he's ready to kill himself when a knock comes on the door. And soldiers inform him that Major Adama has reinstated him as captain. And it basically saves his life. He goes back to the mirror, and he's looking at this mirror and realizes that he has something to live for. And the person that gave him something to live for was his friend, Bill Adama. And, and that's when you cut back to the scene in the infirmary, and he says, "You should have never brought me back. You should, I don't want to command. Don't die on me now."
Die. Yeah, he would have been happy to die on Caprica.
Yeah. And that's really telling of that character. Like, I mean, he's always been an angry character. You know, he has to be
very angry and insecure character, and he's got a lot
insecure,
of reason for it.
right? Disgusted by himself. He's disgusted with himself. Very conflicted, and you know, we understand more when we see Ellen come back into his life, and then I think this scene tells us even more just how worthless he feels about himself. You know, he has no self-worth, and so I love seeing that. I love destructive characters in my art. And then right after that, we see the Crashed Raider, and inside the Crashed Raider, Cylons begin to emerge. A strike force has landed on Galactica, and that is the final scene.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and you know, and that sets up a great. That's a great setup for the next episode, which you know, when we do our review next week, the next episode is called Valley of Darkness, and that's one of my favorites of the season so far. But getting back to this, I mean, I thought that there was some great stuff there, especially with Ty saying, you know, I never wanted a command. You never should have brought me back in the service. And you can just see like the constant self-loathing the guy lives with. And it's like, it's so good.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I think everyone has had a point in their life when, you know, they felt like they weren't worthy of a situation, or they felt like, you know, they weren't as good as the people around them, or, you know, they didn't have confidence in themselves. You know, there's a lot of base negatives emotionally that are dealt with in this show from the characters, you know, and
you know, and listen, I can personally identify with some of this stuff because I've had moments where I have been at that desperate state, you know, where I'm like, I don't know how to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, you know, and my instinct has been like, you know, F this, I want to give up. And you know, and it's interesting when you actually see that. Yeah. PJ, what did you think?
I just wanted to say good night because it's almost 6 a.m. here, and I'm not going to make it much longer. So I just wanted to say good night. It's been an honor. And Script Doctor, it's good to see you. Steven, it's good to see you. And
always.
And it's an honor always to be here, and happy to be back anytime, guys.
It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah, before you go, PJ, real quick, what was your final impression? And if you could give it, you know, a number rating, what would you say?
I would say it's been so refreshing to watch this episode. And I know I like, you know, you called me a little bit earlier to sub in for somebody, and I watched it on the fly, and I was actually doing some other stuff too at the same time. Mm-hmm. But it was so refreshing, really, to see this and to watch this. And it was a lot of fun to break it down with you guys, and knowing how, and without getting into spoilers, knowing how the series ends and sitting down and analyzing these episodes, I think is fascinating to me. And I really appreciate all your insights, really.
Yeah. So
I would say, I didn't answer your question. I would say 8.5, 9.
Okay.
Great.
Beautiful. Thank you, Orville. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Yeah. Get some sleep, my brother. I'll see you later.
Thanks. Good night, guys. Bye.
Good night. Have a good night.
All right. So we'll go around the horn. We'll give our final breakdowns, and we'll probably be doing the same because it's getting to be that time, guys. So real quickly, I think for myself, the final overview of this episode, I liked it. It showed Ty's vulnerabilities, and just as I was saying right there, you know, that battle with this self-loathing, everything else, and then of course the chaos. This episode centers around a maelstrom of chaos going on, and it shows the tests of people's mettle, people's leadership skills, things like that. There's so many interesting things going on, interesting tests put in front of certain characters. So I would say, overall, to me, this registered an 8 for me.
All right. I love, not one of my favorite episodes. There was some elements that were a little bit too rushed. I did notice some of the problems with continuity a script doctor had brought up earlier. Actually, you know what? Candace got some lines, so that did make me very happy. I love that, the supporting characters had a chance to shine in here, which I like. Kali, Gata, Anastasia.
Hero.
Yeah, and it's Hero. And so actually, I give it a 7.6 inches, because they gave my girl, a few scenes. Not my favorite overall. Not the best executed episode that I have seen. Of course, a joy to watch. All the actors did well. What stood out to me in this was the looking in the flashback scenes at the relationship between Bill and Saul.
Yeah.
I like, you gotta suspend disbelief because they're all dudes with bad wigs. You gotta suspend that.
The flashbacks were good.
Yeah, the flashbacks were good.
The content was good. It was just those the attempt to young the actors.
Rather ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, not my favorite. Definitely not the worst. 7.6 inches. That's what I give it.
All right, script doctor.
Well, I mean, Steven, you and I are on the same page here. I mean, aside from a little bit of their continuity issues, the performances were outstanding. The writing was very coherent with the contrivances, and I love the problem-solving nature. I love the clarity that was going on. I like the growth, but I especially loved the fact that we get to see a lot more of Ty and see how deeply flawed he is as a character and how detrimental that would be to the fleet if he were ever put in charge. I think that's a great way to elevate stakes when you put a character that, by all accounts, should be prepared for this type of responsibility, and you see he is not. And it even allows you to reflect back on the past season with his drinking habit, where the only reason he's able to be, in the position he is and get through it, get through the stress, get through the responsibility, is by, having a little bit of the creature inside of him.
Yeah.
And you see how that aspect is further exacerbated by his wife, who's of the same way. She needs to find value. She can do that through being social and drunk and easy, as it were. And I think it was a great piece for him. This was definitely his episode, and I really enjoyed it for.
Definitely a Michael Hogan, Aaron Douglas episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks again to PJ for everything, and guys, make sure that you support Orville Nation. Make sure that you check out his channel and his content. Man, PJ has everything Orville, like always, covered up, down, left, right, every which way. He also, covers sci-fi in general, man. PJ's a sci-fi lover like all of us. So, supporting Orville Nation just isn't necessarily about supporting the Orville, although a large part is. But, it's about supporting good science fiction, because PJ is down with that. He loves his science fiction, whether it be the Orville or, other properties like Battlestar and Stargate and Star Trek. So, there it is.
And PJ is a great supporter in the community and the fan community overall. I try not to bring TFM too much into these, reference it too much into these podcasts. He's a friend of TFM, and if you want to take a break from the fiery rhetoric that maybe I may bring on my channel concerning the Fandom Menace, you can always go to Orville Nation and just relax. Same thing with like DJ Odyssey and those channels. And I really appreciate that time to be able to go to a channel and just think about the creative decisions and talk about the things that we love and like. And so I really appreciate Orville Nation and everything he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do I do want to say, thank you again to the chat for hanging out with us. We had a great time with you guys tonight. Big thanks to Simone Bailey.
Yes.
Yeah.
How good was Simone coming on here and just sharing some awesome, anecdotes and things that her observations. I mean, she's just very good, you guys.
She's wonderful. I was trying not to fanboy. And she's a wonderful person. I'm really happy that Kirstie Alley put a tweet out earlier that I retweeted, and it was talking about there's a certain percentage of people in Hollywood that are the loudest, that make a lot of noise, but there's a lot of hardworking good people that work in that field, and it really makes my heart glad to speak with someone like Simone who is one of those people.
That's what I've been saying too. I mean, that's what I've been saying too. It may appear like it's very SJW-y and stuff, but it really isn't. It's just they're just the loudest at this point. And there's a lot of people that they're just not in a position where they can really push back, and that's why I created this persona and I'm doing what I'm doing, because I need an outlet. Frankly.
Right.
And
well, we appreciate that, Script. We really do.
Yeah, we do. And I just again, thank you guys so much for your support of this channel and this show, because we really love you guys in the chat. We really do. And it's a pleasure to bring you this show every Thursday. We actually, it's funny because we're very meticulous about it. We get during the week, we get very excited about getting ready for this show on Thursday.
Oh yeah.
It's a blast. We genuinely enjoy it, and I hope that you folks in the chat can see how much that it means to us, because I hope that comes through to you guys. I really do.
Absolutely. This is our fun time. This is my fun time. This is the show I look forward to hanging out with my friends that I've made. I'm not thinking about subs. I'm not thinking about any of that, YouTube algorithm or anything. I'm coming here to have a good time, hang out with friends. And I mean that, people on the channel and people in the chat. Love that you guys come and see us and in this group and talking about a show that's just one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah. And, with that, I will go ahead and let these awesome gentlemen, my esteemed friends, we'll go ahead and let them plug their channels and their projects, and go right ahead, Stephen.
Script's going to go first because he doesn't want to.
Okay.
All right. So please subscribe to author Stephen Walton, the author of The Phantom Menace Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I think you've got up to 4 volumes planned, if I'm not mistaken. Also, please feel free to subscribe, if you haven't already, to my dear friend Drew Taylor, the Supreme Heretic, who not only has this channel, but he's also launched sickestofall.com. Please check out that website. It's got some news articles on there. You won't regret doing that, as well as seeing his content over at Bounding Into Comics. Then there's Scott over at Sporky News Podcast. Go give him a sub. Of course, please sub to Orville Nation PJ's channel. He's got a Sunday Night Latchcombe show, which is a lot of fun. I try to catch that on Monday mornings when I do my exercises, because it's always interesting. So please give that a shout out, or sorry, give that a check out. There's also Bear Nerd Fun, who is not with us today, but hopefully we'll see him next week. Please subscribe to his channel. He's got some great content as well. And Brian the Gravedigger, when we're all waiting for him to come back. So I'm really looking forward to his involvement once he gets all settled up. And then I've got my little channel, youtube.com/scriptdoctor, where I'm trying to get a video done, but for the last couple of days, my girlfriend has been kind of living with me at the moment. So I haven't had much privacy to do that discreetly. So I've been just doing normal writing and watching rerun television shows and stuff with her.
And I know what exercises you refer to. You can say exercises all you want.
Oh no, I do a walk with about 60 pounds on my back, about 2 kilometers away, and then 2 kilometers back, so just shy of 5 miles. And then I do boulder shoulder exercises, then curls, then triceps, and squats. And then I wait about an hour after that, and then start eating. and then get back to writing.
Yeah, and then your special push-ups.
No, I don't do push-ups because I might dislocate my shoulder.
All right. Orbital Nation says in the chat, Drew, give us an update of SOA's progress. All right. So very quickly before I let Steven plug his stuff, as Script Doctor mentioned, sickestofall.com. I did branch out and start my own site, you guys. I do have sickestofall.com. It is a news site, and our slogan is called Nuking the Narrative, and it is like that for a good reason, because when you come to our site, you will get things that you don't normally see on the community newspapers and magazines like Bleeding Pool or like you see at Bounding. You know, we have a wide variety of topics. We have unique stories, and we have things there. You know, I try to urge my writers, when we put content out there for you to read, it is with the express purpose of to inform you and to entertain you. But we also have, you know, content that'll make people think, because what we want to do ultimately is get everybody in a good state of free thought, because the worst thing that authoritarians hate, you guys, is a free thinking population.
Hail to that. Is that my cue?
Yes,
That is your cue, sir.
That's my cue. Okay, I missed my cue. Hi, everybody. Please subscribe to Script Doctor PhD. He has wonderful videos when he's not having weeks on end sex with his girlfriend. Subscribe. Please subscribe to Bear, Brian the Gravedigger. Follow Raquel on Twitter. We really miss Raquel when she's not here. She came in halfway through the season when we were reviewing the last season, and she's just been a joy to have. Thank you to Simone Bailey for being here. Thank you, Orville Nation. Thank you and hail to everybody in the chat. You can find me at YouTube channel author Stephen Walton, or on Twitter at Lodonis, Lodonis. On my channel, I have the Fourth Wave on Saturdays, usually about 7 p.m. We have TR4 with myself, Sporky News Podcast, Jane Theory, who's doing a lot of videos on Dune right now, a lot of Dune news coming up, and she's a Dune fan, so check her out. And Lorena Creole, who is a member of Twitter, who just does live streams. We keep trying to tell her to make a channel, but she's just going to go around on everybody's live streams. Please check her out. Love Lorena. Check out Final Death Star and Immortal Coil. And then you'll also find me here on the Pegasus Actual Podcast with this cool group of people every Thursday at 9 p.m. on this channel, Supreme Heretic. Thank you all very much. Wash your hands, wash your ass, and be good to each other.
Yeah, and next Thursday, please come back and check us out. We're going to have obviously the second episode of season 2, Valley of Darkness. It's going to be awesome. So make sure that you guys come and check that out. We look forward to seeing everybody back in the chat. So big shout out to Random Brad Creates, Kronos, Lady Mist, Sith Lord. Man, it's always awesome to see JJ up in the chat, Sith Lord 3827. Orbital Nation for hanging out with us on the panel tonight, Simone, and everybody else that turned out in the chat. Man, we had so many chatters tonight. Sporking News Podcast was in here. Scotty, good God, Shellback, Chefzilla, DJ Odyssey. Man, we had everybody. Angela Straven, I Am Boxy, Palanuki. You know, big shout out to Palanuki, by the way. He's also my anime and manga writer for sickestofall.com.
He is.
Nice.
Yeah, Palanuki. That's great.
And make sure that you check out sickestofall.com again, guys, because in 4 days on 4/20 will be our actual official launch. The site obviously is live. It's already up. We are in soft launch status, but 4/20 will just actually be when we kick the door in and say, hey, we're here, even though we are already here. But thanks for reading, checking things out. Check out boundingintocomics.com, and good night. Take care of yourselves and each other.
So say we all.
So say we all.